There is a strange kind of resistance in the early years of building wealth. Engineers call it static friction, the force that glues a heavy object to the floor, no matter how hard you shove it. You strain, you sweat, the muscles in your back scream, and nothing moves. Then, all at once, it does. And the instant it starts sliding, keeping it moving takes almost no effort at all. In Britain, that tipping point has a number, £100,000. For most of your working life, you are the engine doing all the pushing. You heave, and your pension crawls forward an inch. But the moment your pot crosses six figures, something quiet and permanent shifts underneath you. Your pension stops behaving like a savings account and starts behaving like a wealth machine. For most of your life, you work for your money. After this one milestone, your money finally starts doing the heavy lifting for you. Let us be honest about the climb first, because almost nobody tells you how punishing the opening stretch really is. The first six figures are built on pure labor. There is no shortcut hiding in the paperwork, no clever loophole, no secret the wealthy are keeping from you. Every single pound is earned, at your desk, on your feet, out on the road. It is taxed by HMRC before it ever reaches your bank account. And then, from whatever survives, you make a deliberate and faintly uncomfortable decision to sacrifice a slice of it into your workplace scheme or your SIP. You feel that sacrifice. You feel it every month, in the holiday you delayed and the upgrade you skipped. This part of the journey is a slow uphill grind where you register the weight of every single step. Here is the twist that changes everything. Once that pot reaches £100,000, a second worker quietly joins your payroll, and this one never sleeps. Run the maths of 2026. At a steady 7% annual return, a £100,000 pot generates roughly £7,000 a year entirely on its own. Think carefully about what that figure actually represents. That is a silent employee working for you 24 hours a day, through every weekend and every bank holiday, asking for no salary and taking no leave. And for a great many people in this country, that invisible employee is now contributing more to their future each year than they could ever realistically afford to carve out of their actual take-home pay. You hired someone, you just did not notice the moment they clocked in. To understand why the difference is so dramatic, picture an aeroplane at the very start of the runway. The first £100,000 is that runway. You are burning an enormous amount of fuel, your time, your energy, your discipline, simply to build up speed along the tarmac. It is loud, it feels heavy, and for a long while the ground refuses to let you go. But then you reach rotation speed, the nose lifts, and the mathematics of compounding finally supplies the lift that carries you up off the runway and into the clouds. You did not suddenly find a stronger engine. You reach the exact velocity at which the air itself begins to hold you up. Below that speed, the runway punishes you. Above it, the sky does the work. Now, there is a second force working in your favour at this stage, and it is one of the most powerful tools the British system quietly hands you. Hitting this milestone tends to coincide with your peak earning years, the very stretch of life where a portion of your income spills over into the 40% higher rate band, above £50,270. Most people treat that higher rate tax as a punishment for success, but salary sacrifice flips it into a shield. When you are a higher rate taxpayer, pushing an extra £100 into your pension only costs you around £60 of actual take-home pay. Once the income tax and national insurance relief is applied, £60 becomes £100 the instant it lands. That is close to a 66% instant return handed to you by the government before your investments have grown by so much as a single penny. There are very few moments in personal finance where the maths is this openly in your favour, and this is one you can act on the moment you understand it. And then there is the part that almost no one prepares you for, how differently a market storm feels once you have real weight behind you. When your pot is small, a market dip feels like a shipwreck. A sudden 10% drop swallows what feels like years of your effort, and the fear can push you into selling at the worst possible moment. But once you have £100,000 behind you, your vessel is finally large enough to ride the waves, rather than be capsized by them. The same 10% dip is still uncomfortable. Nobody enjoys watching the numbers fall, but the structural integrity of six figures means the hull holds. You are standing on a solid foundation, high on the mountain ridge, watching the weather roll through beneath you rather than being swept off your feet by it. The storm has not changed. Your ability to withstand it has. That resilience quietly rewires how the whole thing feels on any random morning. There is a very particular sensation that arrives around this stage. You log into your pension portal at the start of the financial quarter, half expecting the usual slow crawl, and you realize your pot has grown by more than you earned from your job that month. Nothing about your effort changed. You did not work harder or longer. The invisible employee simply had a good run and out-earned you while you slept. The first time it happens, it genuinely stops you in your tracks. It is the moment the whole machine stops feeling theoretical and starts feeling real. So, where does the first £100,000 actually leave you on the bigger map? Set it against the benchmark. The Pensions and Lifetime Savings Association puts a comfortable retirement for a single person in Britain at roughly £43,900 a year, the standard that covers the holidays, the car replaced on a sensible cycle, and the freedom to help family without flinching. Layered on top of the full new state pension of about £12,548, the private pot most people are quietly aiming for sits somewhere around £500,000. At first glance, 100,000 against 500,000 looks like you are only 1/5 of the way there, with a mountain still to climb. But that is precisely the illusion the runway metaphor exists to break. Reaching that first milestone makes the entire rest of the journey happen roughly twice as fast, because you are no longer climbing, you are gliding. The hardest, slowest, most thankless fifth of the trip is the one you have already finished. Everything after it is powered increasingly by the wind and less by you. And here is the detail that makes that glide feel almost unfair once you finally see it. The first £100,000 may have cost you the better part of 15 years of grinding, deliberate contributions, but the second 100,000 does not demand 15. With your silent employee now adding £7,000 a year and climbing, and your own contributions still landing on top of that, the pot reaches £200,000 in a fraction of the time, often in half those years or fewer. Each new milestone arrives faster than the one before it, because every pound you have already saved is quietly out there recruiting the next one. That is the strange double nature of compounding. The beginning is agonizingly slow, and the end is almost embarrassingly quick. Because in the end, wealth in Britain is really just a measure of escape velocity. The first £100,000 is a nightmare of discipline. It is delayed gratification stretched across years, built pound by taxed pound, with almost nothing visible to show for it until the very end. But that discipline is simply the price of admission, the ticket into a life where your time slowly, steadily becomes your own again. True freedom is not the day you retire. It is the quieter day. You notice the compounding wind has grown louder than your alarm clock, the day your money is finally working harder in its sleep than you ever could awake. Reaching six figures is not the finish line. It is the exact moment you leave the runway behind, catch the trade winds, and finally start to fly. If you learned something, hit like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.